Hey Stoic warriors, welcome back to Deep Dive Stoic. Have you ever been in the middle of an argument where the stakes were high? The kind where every word could either build or break your relationship, your peace of mind, even your reputation? What if I told you there's a way to face these moments not with anger or anxiety, but with unshakable calm and inner strength? What if staying composed in conflict could actually increase your influence, earn respect, and leave a lasting impact on those around you? We all face clashes, with coworkers, family, friends, even strangers. It's part of being human. But how we respond, that's what sets us apart. In this video, you'll discover 7 powerful Stoic strategies to stay calm in arguments and fully control your emotions. These tools are grounded in ancient wisdom, but they're more relevant today than ever. They'll help you speak with clarity, act with purpose, and face tension with a level head, no matter the situation. And be sure to stay with me until the end, because the final technique is one most people overlook. Yet it could completely change how you argue from this point forward. Let's get into it. Number 1, understand that staying calm is a choice. Arguments aren't just words exchanged in anger. They're emotional turning points. Sometimes a single conversation can shift the course of a relationship, damage trust, or even define how people remember us. You've felt it, haven't you? That moment when your voice rises without permission, when your chest tightens, and your heart feels like it's pounding out of your body. Maybe it was a fight with someone you love, a partner, a parent, a close friend. Or maybe it was during a stressful moment at work when your patience ran out and you said something you couldn't take back. In those moments, it feels like we've lost control. But what if I told you, truly told you, that control was always yours? That calm isn't something you're born with. It's something you train for. Stoicism teaches us that no one can take our peace from us. We surrender it. And every time we let anger decide for us, we hand over that power. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." He didn't mean that life would always be easy. He meant that no matter how loud the argument, how unfair the accusation, or how hurtful the words, your mind is still your own. And that's where freedom begins. Think about the last time you lost your temper. Did it help? Did yelling, shutting down, or storming off bring clarity? Or did it leave a mess behind, one that you had to clean up with guilt, regret, and silence? Most of us walk away from arguments not because we've won, but because we're emotionally exhausted. We replay the moment in our heads, wishing we had stayed calm, wishing we had said less, wishing we had listened more. Here's the shift. Staying calm isn't weakness. It's wisdom in action. It's not about suppressing your emotions or pretending everything's okay. It's about slowing down just enough to choose your response instead of reacting from instinct. In the heat of an argument, the brain's fight or flight system kicks in. It floods your body with adrenaline and convinces you that you're under attack, even when it's just a disagreement. But most of the time, no one's trying to destroy us. They're trying to be heard just like we are. One of the most powerful practices you can try is breath control. When emotions start to rise, pause. Inhale slowly through your nose for 4 counts. Hold for 4. Exhale through your mouth for 6. Do this a few times. It might feel small, even silly at first. But what you're really doing is signaling to your brain, "I'm safe. I don't need to fight." You create space between the stimulus and your response. And in that space is where your power lives. And then ask yourself the question that changes everything. What actually matters here? Is it proving a point? Is it defending your pride? Or is it protecting the relationship? Too often we let our need to be right damage what we care about most. But when you focus on staying grounded, you give the other person permission to do the same. You become a calming force, not just for yourself, but for everyone around you. Another powerful technique is detachment, not from caring, but from ego. Imagine watching the argument from the outside, like a scene in a movie. 2 people, both trying to be understood, both hurt in their own way. When you remove yourself emotionally just enough to gain perspective, you begin to see the bigger picture. You start to understand that most conflict isn't about logic. It's about pain, fear, and unspoken needs. Think about your relationships, romantic, family, professional. How many of them have been wounded by words spoken too fast or silences held too long? How many times have we chosen being right over being kind? Staying calm doesn't mean you let people walk all over you. It means you respond with clarity. You don't let them drag you into their storm. You invite them into your peace. And peace isn't passive. It's powerful. It's forged through discipline. Every time you pause instead of explode, every time you choose silence over sarcasm, you build that inner strength. Over time, that strength becomes who you are. Not just someone who stays calm, but someone who is calm. Someone who inspires calm in others. Someone who brings peace into every room they enter. So the next time you feel the fire rising, remind yourself, you have a choice. You can ride the emotional wave and let it crash into everything you care about. Or you can drop beneath the surface into that place Stoicism calls virtue, where you are no longer at the mercy of the moment but the master of it. The storm will come, but you'll be the stillness inside it. Number 2, listen more than you speak. In arguments, we often think the one who speaks the most wins. We believe that if we can say the right thing, the sharpest comeback, the most compelling defense, we'll gain the upper hand. But the truth is, real power doesn't come from talking. It comes from listening. And not just passive hearing, but intentional, focused, ego-free listening. The kind that calms storms and rebuilds trust. How many times have you been in a disagreement where you weren't really listening, just waiting for your turn to speak? Maybe it was with a partner who felt unheard, or a friend who was pouring their heart out, and you were already preparing your rebuttal before they finished their sentence. We do it without realizing. And in doing so, we miss the entire point of communication. Not to be louder, but to be understood, and to understand. Stoicism teaches us that the wise man speaks because he has something to say, not because he feels the need to be heard. When you choose to listen, truly listen, you're not giving up your voice. You're showing strength. You're showing that your ego doesn't control you, and in doing so, you take control of the conversation. Think of how many arguments spiral out of control simply because both people are too focused on defending their ground. It's a tug-of-war of emotions, and no one wins. But imagine what would happen if one person simply stopped pulling, not to surrender, but to see, to understand, to ask. What is this person really trying to say? What are they actually feeling beneath their words? Most arguments aren't about facts. They're about emotions, unspoken fears, or years of hurt built up under the surface. When someone says, "You never listen to me," what they really mean is, "I don't feel valued." When they say, "You always ignore what I say," and what they often mean is, "I feel invisible." But we miss that when we only hear the words, not the meaning behind them. This is where reflective listening becomes your secret weapon. The next time someone expresses frustration or hurt, don't interrupt, don't defend. Instead, reflect what you heard back to them, with compassion. For example, say, "It sounds like you feel I don't take your opinion seriously. Is that right?" This doesn't mean you're admitting fault. It means you care enough to understand, and that alone can bring down walls that have been standing for years. Also, never underestimate the power of your body language. Arguments are never just verbal. They're physical. Crossed arms, raised voices, eye rolls. They speak louder than words. So when you're listening, open your posture, soften your eyes, nod occasionally to show presence. These small cues create emotional safety. And when people feel safe, they stop attacking. This takes humility. It takes letting go of your pride long enough to prioritize the relationship over your ego. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Most of what we say and do is not essential." Ask yourself in the middle of conflict, is what I'm about to say truly necessary, or is it just my pride trying to prove a point? Sometimes the most powerful thing you can say in an argument is nothing. Just be still. Just be present. Just be curious. Not to win, but to connect. And when you make someone feel heard, truly heard, you give them something rare, the gift of being seen without judgment. And that, more than any brilliant argument or fiery comeback, can change the entire conversation. So the next time you find yourself in a heated moment, resist the urge to speak first. Instead, choose to listen. Choose to understand. Because the person who listens, not the one who yells, is often the one who holds the real power in the room. Number 3, see arguments as collaboration, not combat. Arguments often feel like war zones. Two sides, one goal, victory. We brace for impact, build our walls, sharpen our words like weapons, and then we launch. We think, if I win, I'll feel respected. If I dominate, I'll feel secure. But in reality, even when we win an argument, we often lose something far more valuable: connection, trust, and understanding. But what if we flipped the script entirely? What if we stopped seeing arguments as battles to conquer, and instead saw them as collaborations? Opportunities not to defeat the other person, but to work with them. To build something better, together. It's easy to forget this in close relationships, with partners, friends, even family. Emotions run high because we care. We want to be seen, understood, validated. And when that doesn't happen, we get defensive. But here's what Stoicism teaches us. The more reactive we become, the more we lose sight of the goal. And the true goal isn't victory. It's clarity, harmony, growth. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Be tolerant with others, strict with yourself." That doesn't mean let others walk over you. It means hold yourself to a higher standard of control, of patience, of wisdom. It means refusing to escalate even when every part of you wants to fight. It means remembering that behind every harsh word is usually a deeper wound, often one that has nothing to do with you. When you see an argument not as you versus them, but us versus the problem, everything changes. You stop pulling in opposite directions. You row together, even if the waves are rough. Picture a couple arguing over responsibilities at home. One says, "You never help out," and the other fires back, "I do more than you realize." Sound familiar? This is the classic trap. Blame, defensiveness, escalation. But what if the conversation sounded more like, "I'm feeling overwhelmed lately. Can we figure out a better balance?" That shift in tone, from accusation to collaboration, changes everything. And language matters. It's subtle, but it's powerful. Saying "you always" or "you never" puts someone on the defensive. But saying "what can we do" invites cooperation. "How can we improve this together" creates unity. It signals that your goal isn't to hurt or shame, it's to solve. This mindset also helps protect relationships long term. When you see your partner or loved one as a teammate, not a rival, you begin to fight for the relationship, not within it. Even disagreements become constructive. Instead of walking away wounded, both people walk away feeling heard, respected, and closer than before. But this requires effort. It requires you to pause and ask yourself in the heat of conflict, am I trying to understand or just trying to win? Am I attacking the problem or the person? If it's the latter, stop, reset, redirect. Because true emotional maturity is knowing that the health of the relationship is more important than being right in the moment. Remember, collaboration doesn't mean giving in. It doesn't mean abandoning your values or becoming silent. It means speaking with empathy. It means choosing your words with intention, your tone with grace, and your presence with purpose. So next time an argument begins to rise, ask yourself, can I approach this like a teammate, not a competitor? Can I choose unity over ego? If you can, you'll not only resolve conflict faster, you'll build stronger bonds that last beyond the disagreement. And that's the kind of strength Stoicism teaches us to carry. The kind that turns storms into stepping stones and arguments into opportunities to grow. Number 4. Master your body to master your mind. Your body speaks long before your mouth does, and in moments of conflict it often screams, the clenched jaw, the raised shoulders, the tight chest. You've felt it. We all have. Whether it's a tense argument with your partner, a heated exchange with your boss, or a moment of confrontation with a stranger, your body begins reacting before you've even had time to process what's happening. That's because the body doesn't just reflect emotion, it amplifies it. And if you don't learn to calm your physical state, your mind doesn't stand a chance. Stoicism teaches us that to gain control over the chaos of the outside world, we must first control the chaos within ourselves. And that starts with our body, the vessel through which every emotion flows. You can't think clearly if your breath is shallow. You can't stay composed if your fists are clenched and your shoulders are trembling with tension. So in those moments you must return to the basics: breath, posture, and presence. The breath is your anchor. In the middle of a confrontation, when everything feels like it's speeding up, slow down. Inhale deeply through your nose for 4 counts. Hold it. Then exhale through your mouth, longer than you inhaled. This signals to your nervous system, I am safe. It breaks the cycle of panic and brings you back to center. Do this 3, 4, 5 times. The shift it creates is immediate. Your mind begins to catch up with your body, and clarity returns. Then scan your body. Are your shoulders raised? Drop them. Is your jaw tight? Relax it. Are your hands clenched like you're about to go into battle? Open them. You're not at war. You're in a conversation. And conversations are won not with force, but with presence. Posture is power. Not the kind of power that intimidates, but the kind that grounds. Stand or sit upright, not rigid, but open. Uncross your arms. Face the other person without leaning in aggressively or pulling away in fear. Just be still. Calm but confident. This posture communicates more than words ever could. It says, I'm not here to fight you, I'm here to understand. And that simple message can transform the energy in the room. And let's not forget your tone of voice, because it too is part of the body. When your voice rises, so does the temperature of the conversation. But when you lower it, slow your pace, and speak with intention, you change the emotional frequency. You invite the other person to meet you at a calmer level, and more often than not, they will. This doesn't just work in arguments with strangers or colleagues. It works in the most sacred spaces, your home, your relationships, your inner circle. Imagine being in a disagreement with your partner. Things are getting tense. They say something sharp. In the past, you would have snapped back, but instead you take a breath. You soften your tone, you keep your body relaxed, and in doing so, you don't escalate. You de-escalate. You shift the entire mood with nothing but your physical presence. That's not weakness. That's mastery. And here's the truth. You don't wait for conflict to train this skill. You build it daily. In moments of stress at work, during traffic, when someone irritates you at the grocery store. Those are your training grounds. Notice your breath. Notice your posture. Use those small moments to practice calm so that when the big moments arrive, you're ready. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. And this you have the power to revoke at any moment. Your body responds to your perception. If you believe you're under attack, your body tenses, prepares for war. But when you shift that perception, when you choose calm over chaos, your body follows, because your mind lives inside your body. And if your body is in turmoil, your thoughts will echo that unrest. But when you control the vessel, the captain regains control of the ship. So the next time your emotions start rising, don't just think. Feel. Ground yourself. Breathe deeper. Stand taller. Speak softer. Master your body, and your mind will follow. Number 5. Let go of the need to win. There's a rush we feel when we think we've won an argument, a brief high like we've proven ourselves, defended our pride, and come out on top. But that feeling, it's fleeting, and it often leaves behind a bitter aftertaste, the damage we caused, the trust we fractured, the closeness we pushed further away. Because the truth is, in most arguments, winning isn't winning, not if it costs you peace, love, or respect. We've all been there. You land the perfect comeback. You shut down the other person with facts, logic, or force, and maybe you walk away thinking, I showed them. But later, in the quiet moments, what do you really feel? Relief, or something else? Guilt, emptiness? A sense that maybe, just maybe, being right wasn't worth it? Stoicism teaches us to detach from outcomes we cannot control, and one of the hardest to let go of is the desire to win. But that desire is almost always rooted in ego, in pride, in fear. And those are not stable foundations for connection. Marcus Aurelius said, "How much more grievous are the consequences of anger than the causes of it?" What begins as a need to prove ourselves often ends in pain far greater than what sparked the argument in the first place. The need to win blinds us to what really matters. Ask yourself during a disagreement, am I fighting for truth, or am I just afraid of being wrong? Am I trying to be understood, or just trying to dominate? These questions cut through the noise. They reveal the hidden motive. And once you see that, once you recognize that your pride has taken the wheel, you can step back and choose a different path. Letting go of the need to win doesn't mean surrendering your values. It doesn't mean saying you're right when you believe they're not. It means realizing that your emotional energy is sacred, and wasting it on a power struggle only drains you. Real strength lies in restraint, in knowing you could strike, but choosing not to, in recognizing that peace isn't weakness, it's wisdom. Try this. In the heat of the moment, when you feel that urge to make your point one last time, pause, take a breath, and say, "You might be right." Not sarcastically, not to manipulate, but genuinely. Those 4 words are disarming. They don't declare surrender, they declare openness. They invite dialogue instead of debate, and often the other person softens too. And if they don't, that's okay, because this isn't about controlling them, it's about mastering you. Sometimes the most courageous thing you can do is let go of the last word, especially with people you love. In relationships, the obsession with winning leads to cold silence, emotional distance, and unspoken resentment. But choosing peace, even when your ego is screaming, leads to something greater: healing, trust, connection. And remember, not every argument needs a resolution. Some things don't get tied up in neat little bows. Sometimes you have to agree to disagree, and that's okay. Maturity is being able to live in that gray space without needing validation to feel whole. Think about the arguments that have shaped your life, the ones that created lasting wounds, the ones that still sting when you remember them. How many of them were fueled by pride? How many could have been de-escalated if just one person had paused and let go? Let that person be you. Because when you walk away from an argument having honored your values and your peace, you don't lose. You grow. You rise. You lead. And that's the Stoic way. Not to overpower others, but to overpower the inner voice that says you must win at all costs. The next time you find yourself on the edge of a verbal war, ask, "Is this battle worth my peace?" Because sometimes the most powerful victory is walking away with your calm, your clarity, and your relationship still intact. Number 6, detach from the moment to rise above it. Sometimes the reason we lose ourselves in arguments is simple. We get trapped in the moment. We feel every word like an attack, every tone like a judgment, and suddenly we're no longer responding to what's happening. We're reacting to how it makes us feel. The moment becomes a storm, and we're standing right in the center of it, drenched and defensive. But Stoicism offers us a powerful lifeline: detachment. Not coldness, not indifference, but space. Space to breathe, reflect, and rise above the emotional chaos. Have you ever said something in an argument that you regretted almost immediately? Something you knew wasn't true or fair, but it came out anyway? That's what happens when we let the moment consume us. We shrink ourselves down to the size of the conflict, but what if instead you could step back? Just for a second. What if you could view the situation like a wise observer rather than an emotional participant? This is the power of Stoic detachment. It's about mentally zooming out, seeing the conversation as if it were happening between 2 other people. When you do this, your perspective widens. You begin to notice the patterns. You see the triggers. You realize that maybe, just maybe, this argument isn't really about the dishes or the email or the missed phone call. Maybe it's about being overwhelmed or feeling unseen or simply needing rest. Detachment reveals the truth beneath the tension. Seneca, another Stoic master, once said, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." When we're emotionally charged, our minds tend to exaggerate. A comment becomes an insult, a disagreement becomes a betrayal. But when you take that sacred pause, which might have just long enough to shift your awareness, you begin to see things more clearly. The moment loses its grip. And in that space, wisdom returns. Think about how this plays out in real life. You're in a fight with your partner. Your voice is rising, you feel attacked. But then, instead of shouting back, you take a breath. You observe your thoughts. You watch the tension in your body, and you realize you're not in the moment. You're watching it. Suddenly, you're no longer a prisoner of your emotions. You've stepped into the role of the philosopher, the witness, the one who doesn't just react, but reflects. And this isn't just theory. This is daily practice. Start with the little things. When someone cuts you off in traffic, pause. When your coworker says something passive-aggressive, observe your reaction before you respond. These are opportunities to build your detachment muscle, so when the big conflicts come, you're ready. Detachment is not withdrawal. It's leadership. It's emotional discipline. It says, I don't need to be consumed by this to care about it. I can stay present without losing myself. And ironically, the more you detach, the more compassionate you become. Because when you're not drowning in your own emotions, you can see theirs more clearly. You can respond with grace instead of defensiveness, with patience instead of pressure. So the next time an argument flares up, try this. Visualize yourself stepping outside the moment. See the scene like a wise outsider. Ask yourself, what's really going on here? What's being said, and what's being felt underneath? Then return, not with fire, but with clarity. That's what makes a Stoic different. Not that they avoid conflict, but that they refuse to be swallowed by it. When you detach, you don't run away from the moment, you rise above it. And in doing so, you reclaim your calm, your wisdom, and your power. Number 7. Respond with values, not impulses. In every argument, there comes a moment, a split-second decision point, where we either act from our emotions or from our values. And that one decision, it shapes everything that follows. Most people don't see that choice. They get caught in the fire of the moment, speaking before thinking, reacting instead of responding. But the Stoic warrior knows better. The Stoic knows that strength doesn't come from instinct. It comes from alignment with who you are and who you want to be. When you argue from emotion alone, you become whoever the moment wants you to be. Angry, defensive, harsh. But when you argue from your values, you become who you've chosen to be. Calm, clear, grounded. And this isn't just about philosophy, it's about real life, because your values are your anchor in conflict. They remind you, this is the kind of person I am. And no argument will make me forget that. Think about your most important values: honesty, patience, respect, loyalty. Now imagine an argument where you let those guide your words. Imagine what it would feel like to look back afterward and know you didn't abandon yourself in the heat of the moment. That's rare. That's powerful. Maybe it's a fight with a friend who betrayed your trust. The easy response is to lash out, to say something cruel just to make them hurt too. But what if your value is integrity? Then the path becomes clear. You speak your truth, but without poison. You honor your boundary, but without bitterness. And in doing so, you not only protect your dignity, you preserve your peace. Or maybe it's a loved one, a partner, a sibling, a parent who says something that cuts deep. The old you might have snapped, shut down, fought back. But the new you, the Stoic you, pauses, breathes, then asks, what do I believe in? What matters more, being right or being kind? My pride or our connection? These questions don't make you weaker. They make you unshakable. Epictetus, another great Stoic, said, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. And how you react is a reflection of what you stand for. Every argument is a mirror. It shows you where you're still reactive and where you've grown. So the next time conflict rises, don't just ask, what should I say? Ask, what would the highest version of me say? That's where your power lives, not in controlling the other person, but in controlling your own character. And yes, it's hard. It's hard to pause when you're hurt. It's hard to stay soft when someone's being cold, but that's what makes it noble. That's what makes it transformative. Anyone can react. But it takes courage to respond, to be intentional, to be wise, to hold on to yourself when it would be so easy to let go. So build your responses around your values. Speak with clarity. Set boundaries with compassion. Stand your ground without lowering your standard. And remember, the way you argue reflects who you are becoming. Every conflict is a chance to rise, or a risk to regress. Let it be a moment you're proud of. Let it be one more step toward the person you've committed to becoming. The Stoic warrior who doesn't just survive conflict, but transforms through it. You've learned that staying calm is a decision, not a default. That listening can disarm more tension than shouting ever could. That arguments are not battlefields, but bridges, and you can be the one who chooses to build, not burn. You've seen how the body can either betray the mind or become its greatest ally. You've discovered that letting go of the need to win can actually leave you feeling stronger, freer, and more at peace. And in our final lessons, you've learned the power of stepping outside the heat of the moment and responding from your deepest values instead of your rawest impulses. This is what it means to be a Stoic warrior. Not someone who avoids emotion, but someone who commands it. Not someone who fears conflict, but someone who transforms through it. And that strength? It isn't built overnight. It's built one breath, one pause, one conscious choice at a time. So the next time you feel the tension rising, remember, you have everything you need to respond with power, with presence, and with wisdom. You've trained for this. And when others lose control, you'll stand still. When others shout, you'll listen. When the storm comes, you'll walk through it with clarity and grace, not because the storm is gone, but because you've become the calm inside it. If this video helped you, be sure to like and subscribe for more Stoic insights every week. Share this with someone who needs it. A friend, a partner, anyone who's ready to grow through what they go through. Thank you for watching Deep Dive Stoic. Stay calm, stay strong, and we'll see you in the next video.